Are you ready to turn some 12 by 12 paper into cards without making any scraps? Hi, I'm Jess from jesscrafts.com, and I'm going to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today, I am working with some 12 by 12 paper from Michaels and Recollections. This paper pad was first available in what I believe was the spring of 2022, so if you're watching this later, it may no longer be available. This particular paper pad had a little bit lower of a price point than I've seen in the past, and it included a lot of solid colors of paper instead of just pattern. I, for one, love that. I like that I can get some fun patterns, but they're giving me some solids that coordinate because I like to make mats for my cards. So I always like to be using a lot of solid paper or solid cardstock with my cards. And now I don't have to worry about picking paper from my collection or cardstock from my collection that matches. It's all included and some of that work is taken out for me. But let me know what you think. Do you like the idea that you're getting some solid paper, or do you feel like that detracts from the value? This is based off of a 12 by 12 paper busting template. It is from jesscrafts.com, which is my website. You can follow the link in the video description. You download a PDF. It tells you exactly how to cut your pattern paper, and it shows you a sketch. You'll see it in the top left-hand corner as I'm working. But basically, I'm going to be cutting a 3-inch strip off the bottom, so it starts as 3 by 12. Then I will chop those down to 3 by 2s, all part of the template. Then I'm going to be cutting some larger pieces at 3 by 4.5, and then some smaller ones that are 1 inch by 2 1/4. So that's those little tiny pieces there, and those are going to help me look like I have a nice long strip to go down the side of my card, but I don't actually, and I will show you how I make that work. My mats are generally a 1/4 inch bigger. Sometimes if the math doesn't quite work out, but today they are a 1/4 inch bigger. So any of those paper sizes that I said, you add a 1/4 inch to both sides, and it's pretty much going to get you there. However, there's a special caveat with today's sketch. Today's sketch has these 2 little pieces of paper that fit at the top and the bottom of the card, and then at the center, there's a gap between them, and that gap is covered by that larger 3 by 4.5 piece of pattern paper. In order to make things a little bit easier, you can cut the mat for those 2 little pieces as one large mat. In the sketch, I tell you how to cut them as smaller mats because that uses the least amount of cardstock or solid paper, but it's slower. So instead of cutting them to 1 1/4 by 2 1/4 as suggested, you can cut it to 1 1/4 by 5.5 so that it's the entire length of the card, and that while using a bit more paper is a time saver in my opinion. And in this case, when I was working with the 12 by 12 paper, and actually worked perfectly well with 8.5 by 11 cardstock as well, is that when you take 5.5 and you double it, that's 11. So you can easily get those pieces out and actually save yourself some cuts. And the amount of cardstock you'd save by not doing that is very minimal. So if you prefer the longer piece of cardstock, you can, on your sketch, make a note, and maybe I'll go back in and add that note if that's helpful, that you can do that longer piece of paper as well. This template shows you how to cut 1 piece of 12 by 12 paper and make 6 cards. You can absolutely do this with just 1 piece of paper, even though this paper is single-sided, and you can use the same pattern for each part of the card. However, I like to mix it up, and I have this whole pattern paper pack to use, so I may as well make some more cards. So today, I'm going to cut 2 pieces of paper. I'm going to make 12 cards, and I'm going to mix up the pattern papers and use some with the presents and some with the it just says yay on it and confetti. So I'll use both of those pattern papers. I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like when I really am trying to assemble this many cards. Recently, someone had asked me why I choose to use ATG and not liquid glue. And it's one of those things where I don't even think about it at this point because I've just used my dry ATG adhesive for so long. But things like this process is a good indicator or a good show of why I like my ATG so much. I can put my adhesive on the back of all of these pieces. So I have 10 different little pieces that are going to be part of these cards, and I'm able to put adhesive on each and every one of them, and I don't have to worry about the liquid glue drying before I get to the point where I'm gluing it, because this is sped up quite a bit. And I notice that if I glue more than a couple, maybe 3 pieces at a time with liquid glue, by the time I'm actually going to adhere it, some of it has already dried and it's not going to stick as well. So if you like to mass produce or just make a lot of cards at one time, I think that can be an advantage to any sort of adhesive tape. It doesn't have to be ATG. There's plenty of other tape runners out there. I like ATG because if you order in bulk, a new roll of tape is about $1, and that's much cheaper than pretty much any other adhesive I've seen out there. You certainly do have to buy a lot at one time to get that price, but if you craft like I do, then you'll use it up. And and it took me a while to be willing to commit to that much at one time, but I had to tell myself, tape does not go bad. I mean, I guess in like really extreme heat situations, maybe, but generally you're good. It's not going to have a problem. It's still going to be good, even if it's a year from when you order it that you're going to use it. And you'll always have new tape, always have a backup because you've ordered in such bulk. So there is where I'm using those 2 little pieces that are 1 inch by 2¼ inches. And I am gluing them to either end of that 5½ inch long piece, so that when I glue it onto my card, it will look like I have one long strip behind it, but I don't because there's not enough paper to do that. However, I get the look. Okay, I'm going to be adding sentiments to all of these, and I'm going to add some birthday sentiments. I picked this stamp set from Mama Elephant, where you can stamp 3 sentiments at once, and with the coordinating die, you can cut 3 sentiments at once. Not only that, but that coordinating die, which is very inexpensive, also works with another stamp set, a Christmas and holiday themed stamp set from Mama Elephant. So I like that it saves me time by letting me cut multiple sentiments, and that it's a good price because that die works with more than one stamp set. Because I'm not a big coordinating die person, but if it's going to really save me a lot of time, which in this instance I believe it does, then I'm all for it. I'm using my MISTI and a stamp press tool to make sure I get a great impression. You also saw that I used a wooden handled tool on my stamps. That's because they were new, and in order to get a good impression with new stamps, it is good to get some of that manufacturing adhesive off of, or manufacturing residue off of it. So you can use a rubber stamp. I have a tool from, I believe they're called Stamper's Secret, and Debbie's the owner, and it's cool and it's super pretty, but there are simpler ways to do the same thing. I cut out my sentiments, and now I also have some printed images. These are from creativefabrica.com. It's a website where you can buy individual illustrations that are either colored or not colored. So if you want to use them more like stamps, you can print them out and you can color your own. But these ones are already, a full image, kind of like a piece of clip art that you can use on your cards. And when you're making a bunch of cards, it can be quite a time saver. If you're not someone who particularly likes to color, you might enjoy instead having these pre-printed images. So I will leave you links to that and all the other products that are mentioned in today's video. I don't necessarily make a lot of birthday cards because I donate a lot of my cards, as many of you know, but at jesscrafts.com, you can find out information about different places to donate your cards. And a lot of places that you donate to do not necessarily ask for birthday cards. They need a lot more of just general encouragement type cards. However, there is one specific place linked called the Confetti Foundation that does request birthday cards. So if that's something that you enjoy making or you have some extras on hand, I would check out that specific place. Also, sometimes when you donate cards for soldiers, birthday cards can be helpful because you are donating blank cards for the soldiers to use as stationery essentially. And so if they want to send a birthday card back home, they're great in that instance. However, an organization like Cards for Hospitalized Kids, they might not know when the child's birthday is, and it's really more just about encouraging. So less useful there. But that's kind of one reason why I don't necessarily do a ton of birthday cards. Here, instead of using foam tape on the back of all of my little critters, I've just used some scrap packaging. I also sometimes glue strips of extra cardstock together. So if I have some cardstock scraps, I will glue 2 layers of thick cardstock scrap on top of each other and use that instead of foam tape. But there's also, sometimes you get these like kind of cardboard like shims. So I've also heard people using like cereal boxes, all kinds of things out there rather than buying foam tape because I'm cheap, as you all know. And then I have my Barely Art glue. This is a time when glue comes in handy because I could run my adhesive and put tape on the back of all of these. However, particularly that strip from Mama Elephant is probably a little too narrow. If you found this video inspiring, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know that you like this video with a share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.